Hey, what's up? So I'm here to share my Dragon Age The Veilguard review. To be right up, straightforward, right up front. The title of my review on my blog is, actually I forget, I think it's incredible. Yeah, I think Dragon Age The Veilguard is incredible. I'm going to read the review that I posted, and I will link to the actual post if you haven't already seen it. That link will be in the description in case you don't want to sit here and listen to me read it or check out the screenshots that I have playing. These are screenshots that I had taken myself throughout my playthrough. These are handpicked. Some of my favorites. There are too many, way too many that I've taken. I've taken hundreds of screenshots, so these are a large group of some of my favorite pictures that I had taken. There are actually newer ones that I've taken since, but I didn't end up going through more of my screenshots to go pick those out. But anyways, oh, I know there was something else I wanted to say. We might get some extra commentary as I read through this. My plan is just to read through the whole review because it is kind of long. I don't want to get super off topic or anything, but after I finish the review, I will share also a couple comments that I received. I received several or so or whatever, but I'm going to share a couple of them that were highlights of my, they were pretty cool replies. One of them was very surprising to me, so that was cool. So anyways, here is my review for Dragon Age The Veilguard. Before I get started, this is part of my review. I had like a preface thing, so this is part of it. Before I get started, I want to give you some perspective on where I'm coming from because I think it matters. I've not completed any of the previous Dragon Age games in this series. I think that alone would help you understand why I love The Veilguard so much in comparison to those of you that don't like that it's changed so much from the previous games. I understand how you feel if you may be disappointed. I've been through it myself with when the Resident Evil and Final Fantasy games changed into something completely different, and I cannot feel the same about them as I did when I first played the games in those series. I do enjoy the newer versions, but I cannot feel the same about them as I did when I first played it. I do enjoy the newer versions, sorry, for what they are, but I was originally very unhappy with the changes, and I still have preferences. Yeah, I still prefer the original tanky control Resident Evil games over like the newer ones. Dragon Age Veilguard is the reason that I plan to play through the previous games in this series soon. I had played at Origins and Inquisition before, but did not get halfway through them. Just a mood thing. Wasn't in the mood to keep playing them. The same thing happened when I played through and loved Mass Effect Andromeda. It made me go back and play through and complete the original trilogy. Now let us begin. And the first quote I had here was a good one. I'm pretty sure this was Emmerich that said it. It is the risk of the path we have chosen, an overabundance of sorrow and anger. Normally I don't read the quotes that I've chosen in my review, but this one was just too good that I was like, man, yeah, I've been feeling that. Anyways, when an ancient god decides to right his wrongs by destroying the world, you end up leading a team of a variety of people with different histories, knowledge, and specializations that come together to try and stop him. While figuring out how to stop this god, the team ends up facing off against not just one god, but a few, as well as several dragons, corrupt politicians, traitors, cults, inner demons, and societal despair. That was the only kind of paragraph like that I wrote. I was trying to give a very quick, brief description of like how I would summarize the game, and I thought it came out pretty well, especially being such a short little paragraph. Anyways, Dragon Age The Veilguard is a semi-open world action RPG. The combat mostly plays out hack and slash, even as the mage, ranged hacking and slashing. When your spells are on cooldown, which is quite often if you're using them, eventually you unlock armor perks and skill upgrades that make your cooldowns faster. I'm not a fan of how long the cooldowns are in general, and that your companion abilities share the same cooldown, period. That is terrible. Your companions can equip 3 skills each. You can cast 1 spell for each companion at a time until the cooldown refreshes, using 2 spells total out of the 6 combined that you can equip them with. It's easily the worst thing about the combat system to me. I do like the detonation system where some skills apply a debuff and other skills set it off for bonus damage and perks. It seems to be an ongoing theme with BioWare games, and I like it. Hopefully in future games, if there are any, they don't continue to tie ability cooldowns to each other. My companions should be able to use 1 spell and then another and another, with each ability having their own cooldown. I have to assume this was done for balancing reasons, but it certainly takes the fun level down a bit. Also, the companions feel a bit useless when you don't give them direct commands. It's kind of a good thing since I'd rather them not be overpowered and kill still, but I do find it interesting how often developers have a hard time balancing AI teammates that well. I do like that each companion has their own talent tree that you can specialize into and customize for different playstyles and effects. I do have more thoughts on that too. I forgot about that. It's kind of like when I was playing through my second playthrough too, or towards the end of my first playthrough, I started realizing that what I had done was taken each of my characters and just made it so that all of them were specialized into the trees where the abilities would complement each other, rather than just picking a build that I wanted to play with or whatever. Because like there's multiple spells like time slow and I forget the other ones exactly, but there's a few different spells that don't combine and work together with the other characters and stuff. So, and the combination that it does, the detonators, is noticeably better. That, you know, it's very noticeable how much more powerful you are using those in comparison to using like the ones that don't combine and stuff. So towards the end of my last like 20-ish hours of playing, I made sure like every single character could complement one of the other characters. And then I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, you know, because like I'd rather play my own way-ish, right? So my second playthrough, I decided like if I continue and keep playing through it and stuff, which I plan to, but you know, I'm playing other games, that I'll probably focus more on non-detonator skills and just kind of mess around that way. But I thought it was interesting though. But yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like underpowered not using them, but like I said, towards the end of the game, I was kind of like, you know, I'm gonna make all these guys like combine their powers and stuff. Anyways, another quote from the game: "There's only so much good their deaths will bring." This is a part of the story where like they're talking about like they have to kill the bad guys. They're the evil bad guys that they have to kill. But there's only so much, and there's a little discussion on it, right? Like there's like, well, they're like, yeah, it'll stop this and this and this, but it's not gonna fix these things over here, right? Like you still have to work towards bettering things with them gone, right? You know, so I just thought it was a good quote. The combat is a bit on the easy side on normal difficulty in general. There are plenty of regular encounters and boss fights later in the game that are annoying and frustratingly brutal. Part of it can be due to your character level, but some engagements have multiple enemy types and the ranged enemies made me have to spam dodge until I could finally take them down. It's far less fun than it is strategic. Even if I want to take down the ranged enemies first, the other ranged enemies are forcing me to spam dodge. Some boss fights have specific annoying spam dodge mechanics as well. I find this to be normal for a lot of games, unfortunately. I'm just pointing it out here because it's a thing. Other than that, if you prefer your game to be hard, you should raise the difficulty when you start the game. Maybe not the hardest difficulty, but a notch up from normal, because there's two harder difficulties. There's also a custom difficulty setting that allows you to customize many different things. I haven't looked too deep into those settings. Now, one thing I want to do a quick comment on was the the spamming dodge. I did realize like later on, if maybe, and I'm planning to try it more in my second playthrough the further I get in the game, because as you start, like it's mostly easy. I don't have to give my companions commands and stuff. But I was thinking about this. I was like, you know, I didn't command my companions enough. Like maybe if I sent one companion after this enemy and one companion after that enemy, I'd have to dodge less often. But it was annoying having to spam dodge like between like 3 or 4 ranged enemies and the melee enemy like constantly coming at me when I'm just like, I gotta dodge all this stuff before I can even attack them. Like it's crazy, and it's kind of just endless. And some of those fights, not all of them, but it would happen like enough to write it down and note it. Like, yeah, that was annoying, you know. But yeah, I was thinking like maybe if I command them more often, it might help. But even in my first playthrough, I tried a couple of the characters. They have taunts, right? Like these couple tauntish characters, tanks. And even with that, it wasn't that useful. It just, when I tried it out, I didn't try it out often because the couple of times that I tried, I was like, this is kind of crappy. Not a big deal though. Most of the encounters were playable and fun and enjoyable and stuff. So let's see. Oh, another quote of mine. One of my favorites. I don't think I'll ever stop being angry, but I'm no longer afraid of it. I really liked Harding a lot, and I'll get into that in my next part here. not too deep, but you'll see. The overall story is what kept me playing more than anything, along with the stunningly gorgeous environments. Yeah, like that was two things. Like, cause the combat, I was kind of like, this is cool, it's fun, like whatever. But the story is what made me like, I was like, this is cool. I really dug it, man. I love the characters and their stories in general. Of course, not everyone is my favorite. I was not very interested in Emmerich's overall story arc, and I found some of it to be very stupid, but there were also many cool things that were a part of it. I'd like to get more deeper into that. I don't feel the need to, and also kind of spoilery, right? But yeah, the stupid parts I thought, I do want to talk about that, but it's not important, right? You know, it's just an opinion on like little things and why I didn't like it and whatever. His story was focused around death and afterlife. Balara's story is about magic and the history of her people, the elves. Lucanus's story is focused around family, betrayal, and politics. Nev's is similar to Lucanus's story, but even better. That was what I thought. I liked her story more. Davrin's story is about a soldier who has to deal with bad orders, bad leaders, and learning that not every goal requires the same path. Harding's story was my favorite because I could relate to it the most. She pushed her anger away and down so hard that it nearly killed her. I would love to say more, but it would be major spoiler territory. She became a god in my eyes. Yep, I was not expecting that at all. I love that character so much. Balara was my love interest, while Harding was my hero. And I do speak on Tash later. We'll see. I wrote that in my review too. Most of the dialogue and events for all the characters, including ones that never join your playable team, kept me interested and engaged. I really looked forward to what would happen next and where we would journey to in order to find out. One thing I didn't mention in this review and I forgot about, because like Balara, there's more to Balara than the magic and the elf stuff. That's like the big one. But there is a key point to her story related with family as well, and brainwashing and cult stuff, and it was just freaking cool, man. It was, yeah. So it's just weird to me, like how many people trash on the writing and the story for this game when that was what kept me playing. I was like, this story is so good. Like the overall story was cool. Nothing I haven't like seen before, but it was good. And each of the characters, even the ones I didn't like love and whatever, like Balara and Harding were my most favorites. So I didn't really like all the other characters as much as I like them, but I still like their story. Like even Nev had a really cool quest chain. Her especially towards the end, like damn, I was like, this is cool stuff, man. So it's just weird to me to see like so much trashing on the writing specifically in the story, and I'm like, it reminds me of like Assassin's Creed Shadows, where like I keep seeing this come up in discussions where people are like saying Naoe's story is trash and Yasuke's is so much better. Yasuke's is a tiny blip in that entire story. It's all Naoe. But everybody's like, I keep recent discussions, people are just being like, Yasuke's the best, his story's the best, Naoe's useless. And I'm like, these people are not paying attention. And I can understand that part, like they're not remembering the story, or they just don't care. They're just so mindset on preferring Yasuke. Like, because it's so long, that story is insanely long, man. It's ridiculously long. And Naoe's story is really, really freaking good. Every time I see these people talking about how bad it is, I'm like, you people are just crazy. You clearly don't remember, didn't pay any attention at all what the hell is going on, because none of what they're saying makes any sense. Anyways, I'm going to continue here. Balara was my favorite character just because she's so sweet and helpful, what I always find to be the most unrealistic type of mentality, but it's still nice. I also like that she's vicious when needed, so she's not just some innocent character. I felt like it balanced out her perkiness. It made me laugh so hard when at some point she said, I wish I were a crime boss. Last person I would ever expect that from. I did. I laughed. I was like, Balara just said that? Like, what the hell? I want to hear more. It's just one of those quick passive lines when you're walking along with certain characters in the group. I think it was Nev that was with her, and yeah, it was Nev. I think it was doing like a Nev side story, and Balara was like asking her questions. She's like, do you get to do this? Do you like to give people orders? Do you get to order kills and all this stuff? She's like, I wish I was a crime boss. And I was like, what the hell? Balara's? What? That was funny, man. The overall visuals are absolutely gorgeous, and I guess that, like, I've seen people trash on the visuals too. I've said this before with many different games. It's kind of like Kingdoms of Amalur. Like, I prefer Kingdoms of Amalur over Skyrim. Just visually, it's a preference. Like, I like the fantasy, the artistic style to things over realism. Like, I don't care for realism. I can be impressed by realism, but I prefer a fantasy art style, kind of like Borderlands. Like, I like Borderlands specifically for the artwork and stuff. Every single environment had my jaw dropping at some point. I found the spell effects to be deeply impressive as well. Yeah, the spells are crazy. They fill up the screen. I'll be in photo mode trying to get a shot, like, right when I cast a spell, and you can't because it's just whole screen's freaking covered. And it's like, well, I need to time it, but like I have to wait till the spell's coming down, you know, like just dissipating or whatever. Like, but the spell effects are badass. The music is beautiful and mood setting. The voice acting is excellent in general. I don't enjoy every voice, but I thought the acting was good. And I do point that out because, like, some of the accents, I'm like, you know, but that's just how, like, this is just a thing, right? Like, I don't hate their accents, but I don't like it either, right? You know, but the acting was good. I'm not sure how much choice actually matters in this game. It was obvious to me that some choices did have an effect on the resulting dialogue and the outcome story-wise, but I'd have to play through the game multiple times just to see how real those choices actually are, or, you know, look up videos, but I'm not going to do that. I don't care that much. It certainly felt good and like it mattered. In my experience with games that offer choices, the alternate options don't actually change that much. There is an obvious path difference in one of the major story arcs in the game, that there is a choice through the game that you would have to play through twice to see how the other one plays out, or, you know, look it up online. General dialogue choices in most games don't usually matter that much in the end, is all I'm saying. Another quote here: "We expose corruption and stop slavers, but nothing really changes." And that was part of their conversation about stopping bad guys and stuff. I thought it was a good quote. I thought it was interesting too, because these are hopeful people. They are people fighting the bad, but they're also like, what the hell, man, you know? But they keep going. They still keep struggling and fighting through it, even though nothing really changes. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty messed up, right? Like, I thought the side quests were well written. None of them felt like fetch quests to me. They added more depth to the world and the characters that I met along the way, not just the ones that joined my team, but characters that are part of the factions that we fight alongside with as well. I think it's also worth noting that there's quite a lot of side content that isn't accessible when you first come across it. I remember a couple of companion quests being in my quest log for many hours before I could even access the areas to do them. One of the longest ones I had in my quest log was Tasha's. One of Tasha's quests I had for freaking ever, man. I went back to that zone multiple times for different quests, and every time I was there, I was like, I can't do this. Like, what the hell? And maybe it was because I just focused too much on side activities as I was playing through the game. Like, I was making sure that I was completing all the companion quests as I played along, so I wasn't in a rush to get through the main story, right? But yeah, it took me a long ass time to finally get to Tasha's, like, side companion quest that I had. It was just sitting in my log for a really long time, and I was like, dude. But yeah, so there was like a couple like that. And one thing, let me check real quick. So there's something, oh yeah, the faction stuff, like all the side characters, part of the companion quests mostly. They're part of the main story as well, but you get to know them more through the companion quests. There's more depth behind them, because they're the ones that interact with your character as you're playing the companion quests, like their stories, not like love interest stories, but like their actual full-blown story arc of what's going on with them in their life and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. Character customization in Dragon Age The Veilguard is pretty great with plenty of options. Something I thought was a little weird is that it's kind of hard to make a sexy character. Yeah, they're all kind of ugly. They're really like, I can find them attractive, but there's a difference. It was strange. Like, even like sometimes I'd look at the main character I started with, and sometimes I'd look at her and be like, oh damn, she looks really pretty here, but most of the time they're not, like, it's just weird the way they stylized them. Like it's weird, man. Anyways, the options when creating a character are pretty good though. I never ended up unlocking all the armor transmogs throughout my playthrough, and I'm not really sure why. It bothers me when a game doesn't naturally unlock everything by the time I've completed it. What I found especially weird about that was I was still getting loot during the last bits of the game when there's no new game plus, so it was kind of pointless. I guess they still want you to feel like there's some kind of progression, but when it was obvious to me that the game was about to end, I was more confused on why I would be looting any of it. It was disappointing to not to have everything unlocked already by that point. And this was like 5 to 6 hours before the end of the game, because you're getting to that climactic part, right? Like where everything is kind of coming together and you're like, holy, and it was so good. I loved it. I don't want to like hype it up too much or anything, but it was good. It was badass. And so with the last several hours leading up to the finale and all that, I was like, man, this is awesome. But I was also like, I can't believe I'm still looting so much. Like I know I'm at the end. This sucks, dude. Like I should have had all this stuff way before I got here, you know. It's just it's I guess my own preference, but it is kind of weird, especially with no new game plus, of why I was looting so much stuff at the end. And one of the final armor pieces I got, I was so mad because I was like, that is my most favorite armor in the game, and I got it like in the last few hours, and I was like, you bastards! Like. Another quote, sometimes the wrong choice is not choosing at all. I really like that one. Unfortunately, I thought that most of the armor was ugly looking. I had come across some comments on the forums that felt the same way about this throughout the series. I thought that was interesting because somebody had posted something about, why is the armor so ugly, and then somebody else was like, yeah, that's been like that through the whole time. Like the and apparently they were referring to other people. They were like, yeah, people have been saying that for a while. I just thought it was interesting. Some of it is cool looking, but I had three total favorites out of the 20 plus pieces of gear I could choose from, and I didn't even have everything. I think I still had like 20 more pieces that I could unlock that I didn't have unlocked. And another sad thing to that is a lot of those were just like color changes. Like it wasn't even an actual different piece of armor. It was just a different color variation that I hadn't unlocked yet. So that's freaking annoying. I hate when games do that. Like, if you're gonna do that, like, don't make it a separate armor piece. Just let me pick color palettes, you know, like in the transmogging options. Don't like make it a separate armor. That's so annoying. Assassin's Creed Shadow does something similar to that as well. Like you get I don't like that. Let's see. There's also not a lot of weapon transmogs to pick from, 4 maximum for each companion. There were a bit more for the main character, but then it was kind of the same thing. It was just recolored versions of the same weapon skin, so it was just not a lot going on there as far as the variety. So that sucked too. Most of the gear for my mage wasn't even robe-like, so that was disappointing. What happened here is that they are obviously working with armor themed to the different faction types in the game world rather than random or different cool things to wear, so that limited it a lot. That's how I felt anyways, that's why I wrote it out that way. I'm still glad the transmog feature exists at all in the game, and I did play around with it often. It was just disappointing how few looks there were that I actually enjoyed or was impressed by. I might have liked some of the armors even more if the color schemes weren't so ugly to me. I just put that out there. The armors were ugly, but I might have liked them more if I could get a better color for it, you know. But even then, I still didn't like the armor in general. But I did play with the transmog though often, mostly because I like switching how my character looks and stuff, especially when it's an option. All right. Oh, another downside to the transmogging is that you have to return to your home base and visit the wardrobe to do it. Cannot change your look on the fly. A couple of things that are missing that I would add to the transmog system is a loadout system and being able to label specific pieces as favorites. That way it would be easier to switch between favorite outfit styles. It's also really too bad we didn't get to see Emmerich in his other form during combat. That would have been so cool, and I do write it that way on purpose. I'm trying to avoid spoilers as best as possible. Just saying that by itself is kind of like, wait, what? Right? But yeah, that would have been I was like, man, that is so freaking cool, and we don't even get to see it in combat. Like, what the hell? I did like his new robe though. That was pretty cool. Some of the general gameplay features that I really liked were the fast travel system that requires no confirmation when fast traveling. Isn't that annoying? I imagine some people might prefer the confirmation, but I already know I want the fast travel, which is why I'm clicking on it. So I love that there's no confirmation for it. It bugs me in games. You're like, I'm already clicking on it so I can fast travel. Why are you asking me if I want to fast travel? Assassin's Creed Shadows does it decently, where it's like you hold the button to fast travel. But I liked this one. I liked that was just instant. And the loading's pretty fast too. I also love being able to change my talent specialization at any time. I didn't actually do it much throughout my playthrough though. I did a few little changes here and there, but I liked the way I was playing through the game, so I just didn't really mess around too much with my specialization. But I do think it's cool that I can change it whenever I want. I was surprised at how often I was using zip lines to traverse through some of the environments. What I really liked about the zip lining was that it felt natural and not like a gimmick. I thought it was implemented very well. Most of the puzzles were really easy, but I still thought they were fun. It did make me think, like, were these made for kids or a younger audience, right? Kind of maybe newer to games or something, because most of them were very simple. Again, though, still fun. Like, it was cool. It was like, all right, you know, whatever. The only thing I remember not really liking is the slow animations for climbing. I enjoyed the platforming parts, but the climbing always felt and looked a bit clunky. I'm just checking one thing real quick. Okay. Oh yeah, and the mouse scroll wheel doesn't work very well when managing and browsing the inventory on PC. I often had to click and drag the side bar thing because like scrolling it wouldn't move it. Just sit there. I'd be on my inventory scrolling and it just wouldn't move, and I was like, okay, but at least the sidebar thingy worked. Something I noticed while using photo mode is that the companions are almost always scowling. Oh, that was so frustrating. I found it very odd and annoying. It's so rare when they don't have this really ugly face during combat. It makes sense and all because I can think of them as being serious while fighting, but my gosh, it's so ugly. I know I said that twice in a row there, but I was like, I didn't know how else to rewrite that anyways. It made me miss being able to choose facial expressions in photo mode, which is a feature in other games that I almost never use. I never use facial features or facial expressions most of the time, like rarely. I started doing it in Assassin's Creed Shadows just for certain things, but I almost never use that. And then I was like, in this one, I was like, dude, they're all like, they just look nasty, dude. And these are like Balara. Balara is gorgeous. She is so beautiful. And in combat, she just looks like a monster. And I'm like, they're all like that though, except for the main character. The main character doesn't usually have like this really nasty look. A little bit more serious, but they all kind of have like this really ugly scowl on their face, and I'm just like, you're ruining my screenshot, man. It also pointed out to me the photo mode is how little companions do when you're not giving them commands. They do attack for sure, but it's different, and in photo mode I see them do a lot of running and standing around. It's kind of funny. Yeah, that's what I'll notice them. They're just kind of, that's what they do. They run and stand around. They don't actually do anything unless you command them, but they randomly attack. They even randomly use their specials, which I thought was weird. Because if they used one of their special attacks, I could still command them to do the same thing right after. I was like, okay. All right, for Taj. I had intended to get a bit deep into my thoughts on Taj as a character, but that would require way too much, and I don't want it to distract from my review as much as it did the story in the game. It does need to be addressed though. I liked the character and I thought her overall arc was neat, but was completely ruined by the forced ideology that never really naturally blended in with the story. It was really bad. She's really super cool badass though. And then I linked to a vlog of mine talking about my thoughts on that ideology. Yeah, I did mean to, but as I was thinking, I was like, it would take an entire different post just to get into that. And I'll talk about a comment I got actually after I finished this a little bit more. While Dragon Age The Veilguard starts off especially linear, it does eventually open up and get much bigger with some decent exploration options and feeling. It reminded me of Kingdoms of Amalur, and the reason I mention that is because like the first couple hours of Kingdoms of Amalur were kind of the same, where you're just running down these paths and it's not super big and open, and then the further into the game that you get, it does open up and get much bigger. So it's not a fully open world game though, and I'm fine with that. I felt like this game was a truly incredible experience overall. I kind of wish I got this game sooner so I could have said these things early on. I would like to see another game in the series. And I remember rereading this part of my review and I was like, it's not like I actually think my opinion would have an effect on this, but I still would have liked to be up front in front of like all the hate, you know what I mean? Like I don't think it would have turned anything around. So it's just funny, man, I wrote that, but I'm like, yeah, I still kind of wish I could have said these things sooner, you know. But the sale that I got for, I don't even remember. I think I got it on a previous sale than the one that just happened. It was just on sale for $21, which I was like, damn, that's a good deal. And I would see some posts on Reddit were asking about it. And I was like, yeah, you know, if you're interested, get it. Like, it's a really good deal. It's not really going to get much cheaper for a long time, probably. But either way, I mean, I've even said, like, I think it's worth full price. I'm not saying to spend full price on it. I'm just saying, like, yeah, this is easily worth full price, man. All right, let's see. I've already started a second playthrough, but I don't have any expectations on completing it anytime soon. I had over 90 hours played on the game for my first playthrough. Now, to be clear here, I didn't get all in depth on that. Some of that was photo mode. Like, I probably spent anywhere from 5 to 10 hours in photo mode. I'm just guessing. Like, I spent a while in photo mode out of the 90 hours played. There might be 1 or 2 hours idle-ish or chilling or, you know, whatever. Like quick food breaks, bathroom breaks, stuff like that, right? So I'm not trying to say like it's a 90-hour game. I'm just saying that's how many hours I had played on the game, and that's a pretty fair amount. I think at minimum you would have 50, but somebody had commented saying that they had 50 hours after and they had completed it, but they had not done all the side quests and stuff. Because part of it, he was replying to me some of the stuff I was talking about the story, and he's like, but it didn't have this and this and this, and I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, there's 2 full quest chains about those things that you just mentioned, and he goes, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he obviously didn't play them though. So there's quite a bit of extra time if you actually do all the side quests, which aren't actually side quests, the companion quests and stuff, because they have full stories. They're not little itty bitty side quests, little fetch quests. They're real full blown stories attached to those characters and stuff. Let's see. All right. I originally played as a Quintari mage focused on a close range build. I am now playing a dwarf rogue, and I realized I probably should have focused more on a staff and nuke build for my mage, because the rogue was instantly noticeably better with base damage than my mage was. Yeah, I was using the knife and orb thing most of the time. I had used the staff quite a bit early on, because I think you start with it. I got a knife pretty quickly too. I love the idea of battle mages, like a melee mage. You know, you can fight, get it close up, and cast spells. Like I've always liked the idea of a battle mage. So that's what I usually try to play when I can. But yeah, when I was playing my rogue, I was like, oh, I should have gone staff, because man, this rogue is destroying stuff. My mage did not do the damage the rogue is doing. I was like, holy crap. Another thing I'm also doing in my second playthrough is playing with Bloom and Vignette disabled. It changes the visuals drastically. I prefer Bloom, but I do like both styles, and the dark grittiness without Bloom on is pretty cool. And the only reason I had come across, I had forgotten about these options. I was in a photo mode later towards the end of the game when I realized I hadn't been paying attention to Vignette. Well, Vignette I noticed sooner, but the Bloom, I forgot about Bloom, and I could lower Bloom in photo mode. And when I started doing that, I was like, oh man, it actually changed. Like the game visuals changed pretty drastically. Just the difference between the vibrant colors and without that, like I was like, damn. So that's all. I just felt like playing through it without Bloom on and stuff, and it's pretty cool. It looks neat. I hate when games don't have a new game plus. A quick note, currently only 31% of the players on Steam that own the game have completed the campaign. 40 to 50% got halfway through. This is based on the achievement progress I see on Steam. And this isn't like, I mean, like, it's just to point it out. Like, you know, if you want somebody with a full opinion that has a good idea, but I can understand people just not liking it and not getting halfway through because they didn't like it. That's fine. That's fine. But I think it does make a difference when all you see is just a hate fest and people trashing on it, and when they haven't even beaten it or even played halfway through it, right? You know, it's kind of messed up. But again, I'm not saying you can't have an opinion that early on. I think 10 hours is plenty of time to have a decent idea on a game. But like, I don't understand people that go out of their way to hate on stuff. Like, that's just weird to me. Like, if I don't like something, I don't like it. I'm not going to go spend a bunch of time talking about how much I hate it, though. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I know other people are going to enjoy it. Like, I know that. Like, I didn't like it. Okay. You know, right? And I can say the things I don't like. It's kind of like when a lot of my reviews where I talk about, games that I love. Watch Dogs Legion had a lot of hate in that for reasons that there were things that I didn't like about it, but there were a lot of stuff that I did like about it. It's why I would recommend it. I'm like, yeah, this is all this crap about it, but I still think it's worth playing, you know, right? Anyways, so yeah, it's just weird to me that I can understand that people have a decent enough idea to know that they don't like it, but you don't gotta go constantly hate on. Not everybody does that, but that's a crazy normal thing that I see. Is like I'll see the same users on forums and Reddit and stuff, and they're just spamming in every thread. Game's like this, game's like this. Why I block them? Because they're just they don't. It's just like, what the hell's wrong with you? Anyways, all right, let me see. And I shared my my vlog of my early impressions. Oh yeah, I posted hundreds of screenshots of this game on Discord. Feel free to join. Okay, so that is the end of my review. I'll share a couple comments. Yeah. The final thoughts are just little extra things that I don't need to share in the video here. Link into my screenshots on Discord and stuff. And my early impression video, which I'll put a link in this video as well. Okay, so I had a couple comments. One is from an old friend from streaming that I met through Twitch and stuff. Yeah, I guess I'll adjust it here for now. I had it saved for another comment that I had up. All right, so one of the things that stood out to me about this one, and I didn't notice it right away. I just thought it was cool that he commented. I thought it was cool that he liked my review, but I didn't. I reread it, and I didn't notice that he wrote that this good review. This one was noticeably better in quality writing than previous ones I've read. I didn't realize what he said there. Because I was reading the whole comment. I was just like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. He completely disagreed about Taj. You know, thought it was like some normal identity struggle thing, which I disagree with. I could get into, but I'm not going to. But I thought it was a cool comment. But it was especially cool when I realized like that he thought it was such a good review that was better than quality writing than the other ones he had read. I was like, damn. So that was cool. That was a very nice compliment. And then one that surprised me. Let's see. This was the one I had previously had it. This one surprised me just because it does address the character of Taj and the identity stuff. So I'll read it and see what's up. I've got mixed feelings about this review. On one hand, I can appreciate how you seem to give attention to both the positives and the negatives, and how you acknowledge that the game might not be for everyone. In that regard, it was a mostly well-balanced and well-written review that I would consider better than some of the more biased or emotional reviews I've read elsewhere from fans and haters alike. So you deserve credit for that. That was interesting because I never would have thought of it that way. Like usually, like I had read reviews, I've seen them Steam and other stuff, and it is kind of just like this weird hate fest. So I didn't give them much attention. Like when I see that, when I can see it's obvious that they just have it out for the game and they're just like all they want to do is trash, I just don't read the whole thing. I don't bother. So I just thought that was interesting. On the other, I feel the way you talk about Taj and transgender people at the end and in the linked video does you little credit. You've shown throughout your review that you're willing and able to look at things from multiple perspectives, but then you don't seem to extend that same courtesy there. I do get it's easier to talk more objectively about a video game than something that exists in real life where emotions tend to be messier. You do admit you're an emotional person, and I think it demonstrates a certain strength of character to admit you sometimes struggle with expressing yourself due to a lack of practice. I wouldn't put it to a lack of practice, but I thought, I was like, where'd you get that idea? That's weird, but I sort of get it. But you also strike me as someone who's intelligent enough to understand that the rhetoric you use probably won't lead to the most respectful, productive, or good faith discussions. Yeah, it's not meant to. And I think that's a shame. That bit of vulnerability at the end of your about your own communication difficulties and some of the things you say in that video did give me the impression you're not above a good faith discussion. I'm not on the subject. Well, on the subject, yeah, that would be hard. And I do think talking about these sorts of things can help foster understanding between people that might not naturally be there. I know he said he didn't want that part to distract from the rest of your review, but given that Tosh and that storyline did in large part inspire the hate campaign against this game, I do think it's a relevant aspect of the game to take into account. And I honestly would be interested in reading your thoughts about that and what it was that bothered you about it, so that can be considered and discussed if appropriate. Of course, that's your own choice to make. And I even gave him a reply saying I never thought of it that way, but it did make me think. I was like, you know what, it kind of, for the first time, I was like, I could like try to think about that and write it out and point, because like I really did think the writing was so bad on Tosh. I really did. It was all just abrupt and like just in your face, and to me it never felt natural. Like, and what like my buddy had pointed out, he's like, it's just a, you know, a identity struggle thing. And I was like, no, that the reason it's not to me is because I don't think your gender is your identity. And part of my reply to this person with that comment, I was like, well, I thought I explained why I felt differently in that video, and it is rude-ish, but that's because I'm just so mad and just so sick and tired of crap. But I could, of course, do it better, and I don't know, man. I don't want to. So it's the same thing with here. Like, I don't even want to go on about this. I could discuss it more, but it's just, I'm gonna be here for another half hour, like explaining that part. So I just realized that too. Like, part of why I didn't want to read that comment was because I don't want to get into it, because it would take quite a bit of time and distract from the actual review and all that. But it did make me think of, in my second playthrough, what I was thinking about doing is going through and actually really pointing out specifically like where these problems are that I have with Tosh, and not as a character, but the writing around that identity part, because I didn't think it was good at all. And I have seen other people say similar things, but the thing is, like, a lot of them really do hate on the game over it. And I don't know if you remember this or if you even saw, but before this game came out, like, there were early reviews and stuff like that. Before this game, there was one clip that people were showing, and everybody trashed on the game just for that one clip. And I was like, look, I might think that's stupid too, but the game looks incredible. Like, I will get around to playing it eventually. But yeah, and it also reminded me of like Mass Effect Andromeda. It was the same thing, not with the identity stuff, but like everybody had that same image and that same quick like 5-second animated GIF, whatever. And everybody, it was the same thing. There's an entire game here, 50 plus hours of game, right? And everybody's just like, the game sucks because this one thing, you know, they're bugged face and just a dumb buggy clip, right? And everybody's trashing on the entire game because that one little thing. It's just like, you're a bunch of morons, man. Anyways. Yeah, I probably had some more thoughts, but like I said, I wanted to finish, just let you check out my review and hear my review and stuff, and I'm gonna go now, so I will talk to you later. Bye bye.